Let's talk about the news, which we got some Xbox news, some Microsoft news.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet right now, as far as, like, the news front goes.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about this before the show about, like, let's try to get a little something from Nintendo, a little something from Sony, a little something from Microsoft.
Guess what?
We're 2 weeks away from E3 and nobody's trying to say anything, but guess what? Leaks are happening.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
This week's leak comes to you courtesy of Microsoft.
Yes. Courtesy of Microsoft, new Xbox?
Two new Xbox.
Two new models or takes on it. Or...
Yeah, the original story, the leak of the Xbox Slim, which is being referred to as the Xbox One 2, came...
Sorry.
That's what they're calling it internally.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because if you think about it, that's almost like the naming nomenclature that somebody like Apple uses, like
right.
5S.
5S, yeah.
So, like, this leads you to believe that there will eventually be a 1.3, a 1.4, a 1.5.
Exactly.
Like revision numbers.
Right, revision numbers, not just,
Exactly.
That's funny.
And because they were so clear about saying, well, it's not a 1.5. And...
Whoa,
which led everybody to go like, woo, they're not going to make revised hardware. I'm like, you people are fucking morons if you don't think they're making revised hardware. But yeah, I read through these stories, and there's a lot of really interesting information that came out of this. The release, granted, this is all still rumors. This has not been confirmed by anybody, but almost the same story came out from Kotaku, and then Polygon corroborated the original story from Kotaku, and then came out with more information about another Xbox for 2017.
Right.
So let's start with this year's.
Sure.
This year's Xbox One 2 is going to be a Slim. They claim it's going to be the smallest Xbox ever.
Yeah. That had to be... Didn't have to go too bad with that. Well, I guess the 360 is kind of...
The 360 Slim is not huge.
It's not huge. It's not huge.
But even that revised hardware is still bigger than the launch PlayStation 4.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's considerably larger than the launch Wii U.
Yeah.
So they've got some room to move as far as that hardware goes, especially considering that it doesn't have the power brick inside of it, which the PlayStation does.
Yeah.
But I think that, it shows with this generation, Microsoft was so gun-shy going into this about, like, man, we cannot release another hot box that breaks.
Right, yeah.
We can't do that.
Can't do that, yeah. No more red rings.
No. And so they decided to go big. So this is basically, they're shrinking down all the hardware in such a way that this will be a pretty small box. Right. And the only substantial performance difference that this year's Slim is going to get is that it will have a hardware scaler built into it that will allow it to natively scale games to 4K.
Right.
It will not be natively spitting out that resolution, so it's basically the same thing that my TV does now, which is just hardware scaling it. And the advantage to somebody who doesn't have, like, a crazy expensive 4K TV, or maybe an older one that didn't upscale very well, is that I would assume that the Xbox scaling would work better,
probably better than that,
than what your TV can do if you don't have one of the newer 4K sets.
Right.
And a lot of older 4K sets don't scale.
Yeah.
If you're not throwing native signal at it, nope. So there's advantages to that for some people. I will not be buying it.
Right.
Although there is one thing that they did say is that revised controller this year.
Yeah.
For the Xbox One to go along with that Slim. I'm of the opinion that they're going to look at the reception of the thumbsticks that the Elite got, how much people liked them.
Yeah, the higher thumb sticks.
Well, not necessarily that, but just like the dead zone responsiveness, how slick. They don't feel... Because they're metal. Yeah. They don't feel like the big plasticky, kind of grindy construction that you get out of all console thumbsticks.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Granted, the Xbox One and PS4 have considerably better thumbsticks than we've ever had before. Yeah. But that Elite controller thumbstick is probably the best one I've ever used. Right. To the point where I'm even, at this point, occasionally forsaking graphics to get the Xbox One version that looks worse. Yeah. To have the better controller in my hands.
The better controller, yeah.
But yeah, so I would assume that they'll probably roll in maybe like the better thumbsticks. I don't think that they'll put in trigger stops to get the hair triggers or any of the lower things, but it's probably just going to be a revision of it, and they might take out the IR sensors from the controller to make the controller cheaper to make.
Right.
So they can put better thumbsticks in there, because the IR sensors that are designed to interact with the Kinect, you don't need those anymore.
Right.
Nobody programs games for that, and there were only like 5 games that ever used it.
Yeah.
Basically, what the IR sensors did was, instead of having accelerometers in there like a Wii remote, it used the IR sensor on your controller to interact with the Kinect to do movement.
Okay, yeah.
So if you needed to shake the controller to get a zombie off of you, it used the sensor to do that.
It would use the sensor, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hang on, I haven't checked.
Wasn't that tempted to fail?
This is not...
Yeah.
They're not on this one.
Are they not?
No, there's no IR blaster on this controller.
Well, goddamn
Confirmed!
Confirmed. Confirmed. They're going to revamp that.
Yeah. So
you heard it here first, folks.
It's a hot take.
Man, if that happens, right here.
Bada boom. Smartest guy in the motherfucking room.
Smartest guy in the room.
But yeah, so that hardware revision, I've also heard the most attractive thing about that hardware revision, other than its much smaller form factor and the scaling, is that console might be $199.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap price point for especially an Xbox, which is typically the powerhouse PC, closest PC kind of console game that there is.
Not this generation.
Not this generation, but as typical of Microsoft, obviously.
Yeah, but that actually leads into the next part, is the Xbox Scorpio, 2017's hardware revision, which is very much like the PlayStation Neo we discussed a couple of weeks back,
right?
Which is straight up hot rod performance version of the Xbox One. Now we're going to talk teraflops,
right?
Real quick. I'm not a huge numbers guy, but I think it's important to show what they're trying to do here. The current Xbox One operates at 1.32 teraflops at optimum performance.
Right.
At optimal performance, the PlayStation 4 is about 1.84.
Right.
So it's a significant difference when you compare the numbers.
Right.
Now, the Neo, the number they were throwing around with the Neo was that it was going to be around 4 teraflops that they're targeting for peak performance.
Sure.
Which is over double.
Right.
The Xbox Scorpio, the numbers that we're hearing are over 6 teraflops.
That's a lot of flops.
Well, here's the thing that is like borderline concerning for me about that. It's exciting.
Sure.
Like the big justification that the rumors and story gave were that Microsoft is in a partnership with Oculus. They have been. When you buy an Oculus, it comes with an Xbox One controller, and that they are making the Xbox One Oculus compatible.
Right.
So just any Oculus you buy out of the box, you just plug it into your Xbox, and it just works.
Yeah.
So they don't have to make their own VR headset. That's a really smart idea if that turns out to be fucking true.
Yeah.
Because do you have any idea how much money Sony probably spent to make those fucking headsets?
Yeah.
And you're probably taking a loss on those because you want to get your install base up. What if you could avoid all of that?
Yeah, and just buy the guys that already have that done.
You don't even have to buy them. You just say because it's Facebook.
Partner with them. Yeah.
Tell me this. Like, granted, this is not my original thought, but when somebody said this on Twitter, it made me almost uncomfortable. Microsoft Facebook sounds like the corporation that will own a country at some point. I mean,
oh boy,
the combination of those two forces.
They still kind of pale in comparison to Google in a lot of ways, but I mean, Google just feels like the kind that's gonna,
That's true.
They're tracking us,
That's true. That's why I don't have one of those.
That's true.
I only trust Apple. They won't give our information to the terrorists.
Not to the terrorists. They give it to the good people.
They didn't even give it to them.
No.
But all right. So the Xbox One Scorpio. The idea is that thing is a hot rodded box. Here are my concerns.
Right.
Is that they are going to have full compatibility between the box you have now and all the games for that. We'll still be able to play all the games that come out next year.
Yeah.
For that new system.
Sure.
And is it just going to look prettier?
Yeah.
And is it going to be, granted, PC developers have to deal with this all the time about hardware compatibility and scaling across a broad range of hardware. But my curiosity is for games that are designed to really take advantage of this new hardware. Are they going to be hamstrung by the fact of, fuck, we got to make this work on that old shit?
Yeah.
And,
oh, man.
And is it going to lead to situations where, like, some games for the old Xboxes just look like shit?
Yeah.
Is it just going to be one of those things where, like, 3 years into your fucking iPhone, that the iOS runs like garbage?
Yeah,
like your phone works worse than it did when you bought it?
It comes with a free pair of jumper cables for your backwards compatibility. It's a tough road to see what that's going to come out to be, if it's even at all, like, true or whatever. The Agent Smith version, as one would...
Now, the report did say that Microsoft will not be talking about the Scorpio this year at all.
At all, yeah.
That they will be unveiling the Slim at E3, talking about price points.
Yeah.
The thing might actually be out within a month of E3, and that's what they're doing this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. Cool. So, yeah, that would be it. Is it just me, or does Teraflop sound like a ghost-type Pokemon? I don't know. I was picturing.
I was thinking more like a fish type Pokemon that's just like laying on land, flopping.
Yeah, like a gold, like a whatever those ones.
He's got a sweet fin that will slice you. Teraflop.
Teraflop. I don't know. That's where my head goes when.